Greetings, Pilgrims, and welcome to another episode of the Polygon Pilgrimage. And today I wanted to share with you the work I've been doing for the Epic Mega Jam 2017. Now, this is a game jam put on by Epic, and it's also sponsored by a whole bunch of folks. I have to get you the full list in a short while here, but I want to show you what I've been working on and kind of the idea behind my entry. And then I will show you all the things that I've been learning and all the crazy things I've been able to do in just the past couple of days. So as you can see here, we're looking up at the sky here, and we're inside some kind of a cave environment. So the theme for this year is, let's see, it says it right here, however vast the darkness, we must supply our own light. So I had this neat idea for, what if you were part of a race of creatures that lived on the surface of a planet that had multiple suns, so you never really experienced darkness. So darkness is literally poisonous to you, and it drains your health. And then you're on the surface, everything's going well, and there's some kind of an attack from a dark-based species, and this fissure opens up in the ground, and you've fallen into this cave. Now, in order to get back to the surface and get back to your multiple suns and your people and see if they're okay, you have to make your way through the cave. Now, inside the cave, you have a little bit of light. As you can see in the bottom left, my health is regenerating here. My light is returning to me as I stand and bask in the light. And I'm going to use my light as special powers inside of the cave in order to make my way through the cave. So you'll find things like mirrors, broken pieces of metal from the surface. You have to use them in clever ways. Now I can circumvent the darkness here by casting a ball of light, which will go for a short distance and then it will fade. So I need to make sure that I can see what I need to see in that time. But you'll notice that casting that ball of light reduces my health by 10 points exactly. So I can shoot 9 balls of light before I'm dead. But then I need to find a new light source. I need to find my way through the cave and find something. So one thing you can do is stand in light. So anytime you stand in light from the surface, of course, we'll regenerate our health. There we go. We also have another light attack, I guess you could say. I wanted to make sort of a radar ping effect to be able to see where your enemies are, because there are invading enemies also exploring this cave. And to do that, you right-click and you shoot this red ball. And if it strikes something that it can ping, pardon me, then it will ping the environment. And this is what that looks like. So say this is one of our enemies, I can ping the enemy. And this red, whoosh will go across. And that will tell us that, okay, indeed there are certain things there and they will be highlighted. Okay, so let's stand in the sun here again and get a little bit more health back. You can also see there's an object over here in the distance. Let's go take a look at that. So these are part of your society that they have fallen through. These are lanterns. And as you can see when I approach it, it says repair lantern. So I'm going to use some of my life force to repair the lantern. He'll turn back on. He'll float up. When he gets into position, he will activate his crystals. They will glow. And now once this particle effect begins, you know that this lantern is now a viable health recharge station as well. So if I go in and out of him, you'll see my health goes all the way up. Now you could stand in the lantern and use your powers here, and it will eventually recharge you. But these lanterns are sort of like safe spots. You can think of it like when you're a kid and you got to run across the pool deck and it's hot. You're like, ooh, shade, So we'll run to the shady spot, and there we go. And then here I started working on some rocks and trying to put together a little bit of a realistic-looking cave. Very short on time, but I did generate 5 different rocks, and I modeled the basic interior of this room. And I have a big plan for how we're going to have the whole thing come together. So here's our enemies that have fallen into the hole. There's that effect again. So you guys can see that effect a few more times. There you go. But I'm going to show you a brief overview for today of everything that we've been doing and kind of briefly explain it. But do not worry. In the coming weeks, there's definitely going to be some downtime for me, and I will be going through a full breakdown of how I've done all of this. And I'll show you how I made everything from the rocks to all the different blueprints, all the particle effects, everything. So let's go ahead and take a look at what we've got so far. So I'm going to jump out of the game mode here. And let's jump that back out of presentation mode. And you might not be able to see it. Oh, no, you can. All the way to the top here, I've got a ton of things to share with you. So first up, let's take a look at the UI. So UI is pretty interesting. So if I click over to that, so this is a basic blueprint widget. So let's take a look here. If I, come on, give us a little bit more room. So here inside of our blueprints, if I right click and say user interface blueprint, widget blueprint, pardon me, that's what this is here, okay? So it has a couple of things. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 images. The health glow is that center glow that is our light. That's what will diminish over time. These other 4 are the rings that are just rotating. And they're always just kind of rotating there, and they're just for decoration. So you see if I just kind of waste a bunch of light really quick, you can see in the bottom left corner there that these rings are just rotating. I thought they looked kind of celestial, a little bit of like light, and I wanted to give you a kind of an indicator as to how much, because you don't really have access to a number to tell you what percentage you're at. So each ring is roughly 25%. So now I'm standing in the light again, you can see my health is coming back. And then of course using the red light does the same thing too. Okay, so that's what that guy is. It's really pretty simple. So each of these rings, if you want to do this yourself, it's pretty easy. The ring itself, the image, is just the ring with a little circle on it. And what I've done is I brought that in here, and then I went down into the angle right here, this angle under render transform under the angle. That's what we use here for these animations. So you just select this, say add animation, call it what you want. And then over here, I just told it where I wanted to start, where I wanted to end. So obviously start at 0. So let's bring ourselves all the way over to 0. Come on, this little thing does not want to move all of a sudden. Right here at 0. There you go. Start at 0 and then click this button here. This adds a keyframe. And then I just went all the way to the end and then set it to a different value and said add a keyframe. So I did a little bit of math and said based upon the starting angle I had it at, I added 360 or subtracted 360 based upon which direction I wanted it to go. I set my keyframes and there you go. And this is the same for each of the rotations. So rotation 2, they're just different lengths, so that way they repeat at different times, and that way they thus look like they're different speeds. So that's all there is to those. Now the health glow, it does not have any actual animations or any coding to it, but we do reach into it and affect its, I believe it is up here under the, nope, it's down here. Image size, no, I guess it is this. The render transform, we're looking at the scale for this guy. We actually modify that through code. So that's what affects our health as we're dying and the light is fading. This scale is being affected to kind of show that visually. If I jump over to the event graph here, you can see here that this is kicking off the animations. So this sequence here, so here's the tick, yeah, set render scale. So on the tick, we reset the scale. Our health glow is the image that we're trying to set. And I'm going to cast to my first person character. And I'm going to get the variable that is his health. And I'm going to multiply it by 0.01. That gives me a number that I can actually use because it's 100. And I'm getting a scale here. And then we're setting both the X and Y scale so that it scales uniformly on both axes to that every tick. So that just sort of gets the health and then sets it to whatever the health is. So this would also work if you had some kind of a pickup item. So you had like a health item that gave you full max health right away. Then this would also work. And then this is just kicking off the animations of the rings. And I think I've only got 3 rings animated at the moment. I think I skipped out on the first one. But off of the event construct, I do a sequence, and that just fires these bang, bang, bang. And what that's going to do here is set the animations to play. I just set them in forward mode. And if you put a 0 in here, that means they will play infinitely. Okay, so there you go. They're all playing, and we have our health visually ticking down based upon our player health, which is a variable. Okay. So next I'm just going across the board here, no particular order. The healing particles themselves. So this is the particle system that I created for the lanterns once they're repaired. Now there's nothing really special here. These, I think they don't even have any kind of a special. Oh, I did use the material light core. So that's for the light balls, that material that lets them glow. I can show that to you as well. That's basically all that's on these things. So it's just that, and then I made them very slow. The one thing I did do was add this cylinder component to make sure that they were in a cylinder-like scenario there. So there you go. Okay, so the BP, this is the healing area. So this is our zone that tells us that this is an area that you can be healed at. So the actual zone itself is just a capsule collider to say if you're inside this zone, you're going to get healed. And then I added a spotlight for a little bit of light. And once I turn on all the special lighting effects, you'll see like the nice halo and all that kind of stuff. So nothing in the construct, but in the event graph, here's where we're doing two different things. So this here is triggering is the player being overlapped, or is the player overlapping this thing? So on event begin overlap, we're getting the class of what it is that is being overlapped, or what is overlapping our area, and then saying, hey, if it's the player, cool, then set this variable to true. If it's not the player, set it to false, and when we leave, set it to false. So then here we go. So event begin play, we're going to set a timer by event, a custom event called heal me, and time is 1, so it's every 1 second roughly. I think is a tick. How long in seconds? Every 1 second, we're going to say if the player is here, go ahead and get the player, and then we're going to set the player's health equal to the player's health plus 5, and then clamp that value so that we don't get a decimal point. So you get 5 health every tick or every second while you're standing inside of a healing zone. So that's what does that. Very simple. Okay, next up, this is I called it VP Interactable because I was working on trying to figure out this interaction system. And I will link in the description. There's a set of tutorials from this guy. I apologize, I can't think of the name off the top of my head. I'm still in the middle of working on this project too, so I'm like, go, go, go. But I cannot believe this guy only has 200 subs because, guys, this tutorial set on how to make the interactable objects is amazing. So he really deserves all the credit in the world. And I apologize once again. I will put that in the description, and I will shout it from the rooftops because well done, and thank you so much for all of your hard work. So this is our lantern thing that we already saw work, where he will fly up into the air and then settle, and then he will emit these crystals. So this is the whole setup that makes that work, and we're going to go over all of this in the coming tutorials, but essentially each crystal has its own light, and then there are these arrows which determine which direction the crystals are going to go to these points from where they're at, and then I have start and end transition points for the lantern to lift up off the ground, and then this sphere is our collision area, so you have to be within this collision area in order to activate the crystal. Initially I made this so you just walk up to it and it would trigger, but then once I learned how to do the actual interaction stuff, now you walk up, you have to press the button. Okay, so the light ball, this is the actual thing you can shoot off by hitting the left click. Very simple. It's essentially a sphere with a light, and this core is a static mesh sphere with a special container, a material rather, pardon me, and then a projectile movement. So it moves forward. And I might increase the speed. It's a little slow right now. But if we go into the, into the event graph, he does two things specifically. The first is that we get a dynamic material reference to his material, and we're going to do two things. These are timelines, so over time we're going to lower the intensity of the light, and then over time we're also going to scale what I called the brightness, but this is actually the glow on the emissive. So we're lowering both of those over time. And then down here, destroy on contact. So if it hits something and that thing is not false, it is not our character, then destroy it. And this just means that if I go back and jump into it again, that when I do this, I can bump into it, and it doesn't get destroyed when I bump into it. Because if you're in a tight situation, you might want to do this kind of thing and be pretty close to it. Initially, I had to destroy on contact everything, so as soon as it hits like the wall or something, it would disappear, and I was even disappearing them myself, and I didn't want to do that. So, okay. So that was our light ball, and then our red ball is very similar, so it's red in color. I figured a nice animation eventually of two hands, and you're kind of pulling apart the ball, and you're pulling apart the spectrum. I think that would be pretty cool. So anyway, so this guy just does one very important thing. He's exactly the same. I actually did a copy. I did inside the editor here, if you right-click and say duplicate. So I duplicated, and then I just changed the colors to red. And then here, when he hits something, he's going to spawn another specific blueprint, and he's going to destroy himself. And the other thing that he's going to spawn is this BP red light pulse. Let's take a look at this guy. So this guy is, again, this is just a sphere. So this is a static mesh with no collision, but simulation does generate hits. So this way we can have it expand out and then trigger our enemies. And then this material, which we'll go over the materials in another episode as well. The materials, this is to create that outside edge. So anyway, so inside of the event graph here, what he is doing is when he begins his life, we're going to trigger this timeline, which is to expand the sphere. So we're reaching into the sphere, and we're getting his, over here, we're setting his transform. Yes, the target here. Everything is the same, his transform location and his rotation, but it is the scale that we are expanding. As you notice here, as the timeline goes across its thing here, and it's not a perfect logarithmic. I actually edited this because I wanted it to expand very quickly and then kind of fade off. So if we go back here, you'll see that the transform here, I'm breaking it out, and then I'm doing each X, Y, and Z, and it's being fed from here as the update occurs. And this is very quick. And that's why you see that red sphere just go whoosh, and there we go. Okay, so then we're going to put that into the scale here, and then when we're all done, when we're finished, right here, finished, we're going to destroy ourselves. We're going to destroy the actor, which is the red light whooshing thing. Okay, now over here, this is the BP interaction UI. Again, I'm going to get the tutorial for you guys. This guy did an amazing job of explaining things so well. Explains these very technical, many steps, but in such great detail and with such great care and consideration that it really works out, and it's beautiful. It's better than I could have done. So this is the actual thing that pops up on the screen when you go to interact with one of my interactable objects. As you can see here, this letter here, this could be scripted as well, so that any key you set in, say like a menu, this would change out as well. For me, it happened to be the E key is the use key. That's just what I'm used to. And the description gets overwritten based upon what it is you're looking at. Let's see, is there anything in the text graph? No. In the graph here, we're just setting the text based upon our function. So very cool there. Okay. And then this is one new one that I'm working on that you haven't seen in the world yet, but let's go ahead and put one in the world so I can show you. So where are we at? Here we are. Okay. So yes, you've read that right. Minor spoiler if you do play this at some point. This is a teleporter. So I'll walk over to it. You'll see what he looks like there. So I'm also going to go over how I created these cool patterns in the paint here. This is all done in Substance Painter, so that's another tutorial coming to show you guys how that works. But I really was happy with the way that these patterns came out. They're kind of like techno tribal, almost Destiny looking like, and I really liked how that worked. So now if I hit E here, nothing happens right now because I have the thing disabled, but right now, this will teleport you from one teleporter to its partner, which will be across the gap. So that's how you get across the gap. And then the lanterns, of course, you can activate and turn on. See, those work. These guys, this is literally what I was working on last night before I passed out. So they're not quite there yet, but I got them painted and I got them in the world. And as you can see, we're reusing our crystals there. So the crystals are the power source for these things. So put those in there, and then the crystals here are what generate that effect as well. Very cool. Okay, so this guy is still in progress, but as you can see, he has a couple of things. So this right here is the spawn point. This is what spawns the other thing. So I'll show you here. So on event begin play, this guy is inherited from the interactable class. That's why we have this parent begin play. So that's what that is. So right here, this is literally the next pin off of here will be what do we do once we interact with this, and it's going to have a list of its other self, its A to B and B to A, to say, hey, we're going to teleport you here. But what we do here is we get spawn point, world location, and we're going to spawn a special light ball, a static one, where it doesn't have that momentum, that projectile component, and all it's going to do is just sit there because we want a light source. Now, I could just put it in here. I forgot how to, there's a way to drag and drop like a blueprint right into here. But the last time I tried to do that with some cards, they didn't really work out too well, so I wanted to kind of avoid that. I said, you know what, we're doing a bunch of blueprint stuff. Let's just see if there's a way to blueprint it. And of course there is. We'll just, spawn it where we want it. Okay, and last but not least, of course not least, is our actual character itself. So this is a modified first-person character. So if you bring in the first-person character, I think I removed a couple of things. I removed anything related to like the VR stuff and all that, we don't care about that right now. And then here, I kind of chopped up all the stuff for the gun and all that kind of stuff. I kept the gun offset. I just, time crunch, just kept that. So that's the actual offset point that the ball comes out of. So if you look at here, let's see. Mesh inherited this arrow thing. Is this the arrow thing? Arrow, no, it doesn't want to tell me about that. But the gun offset is actually a point in space. So here is a variable. So gun offset 100, 0, -10. So that's just where the ball originates. So I kept that. But essentially, when you press the fire button, if you have 20 health or more, it allows you to spawn the light ball. If you don't, it won't let you spawn it because it won't let you kill yourself doing that. You can only die from running out of light, from natural tick event. And down here is the right-click event. And the right-click, again, will say, hey, if you have 20 health or more, then we'll let you spawn a red ball. And then we will change the player health down by 10 points because you used some of your life force. You use some of your power to do this. And then this ticks away and says what your current health is when you do that. And we should see that too if I spawn it. Yeah, see the top 90. So we're down to 40, 30, 20, something. So now I have to stand in the sun. Stand in the sun here and get regenerated. Come on. I'm dying. It won't start me. So anyway, so that's what it will do. So now that I'm well below 20. You'll notice I can't right or left click. So none of those effects will work once you're too low on health. And now I'm being regenerated here because I'm close enough to the light now. So now I can use it again. It'll tell me I'm at 22 health. Now if I back away and come back into the light, start to see it come back up. And we'll wait a little bit here. Tick, 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 tick. And then when I hit it, boom, 39. So I'm at 40% health. So there you go. Okay, so that's what that's doing there. And then, of course, I do want to play some sounds at the end. I'm still working that out. Sound is last on my list just because I need to get things working first. So here's how, this is a little mini tutorial here for you. This is pretty incredible. This is all it takes to do a slowly dying thing. Like if you want to have like a hunger system or like some horror games do like a sanity meter, that kind of thing. This is a really simple way to do it. So on event begin play, we're just going to start a timer for a custom event. So I called my custom event dying. That's what we're doing. And I want this event to run every second. And I want it to loop forever. Then what I wanted to do is I have a variable here called player health. And if I take a look at my player health, default value is 100, right? Start with 100 health. Makes sense. I have another value called health decay. By how much do I want my health to tick down every second? The reason this is separate and not just typed in is because if I have this as a variable, we can adjust it over time. So say you have like hard mode. It could be you lose 5 points every second. We could really kind of just up the ante very easily by reaching in via code. So that's why we do it that way. So anyway, so player health minus player decay, clamp it again just in case so we don't get a weird value. And then we're going to set our new player health based upon this value, based upon this event, which ticks every second. Okay, and that's it. And then I had this connected just to tell me what my health was to prove that the other events were working. And I don't need that anymore though. Okay, so that's all I have for you right now, but I wanted to give you an idea of what it is I'm working on, what it is I'm doing, how it's going. I do have one more thing I could try to show you really quickly. Let me see if I can find it off screen here. We have a, let's see here, I did draw a map for this whole thing because I was very ambitious, maybe too much so. And is it here? No, of course it's not. Let's see, maybe it's here. What is it? Epic Mega Jam. Nope, that was my images. Damn. Okay, I don't quite have it here for you, but I will find it and put it into the description for you so you guys can see it. But I did draw a big map for this whole world here, and if I zoom out into the sky, oh, there he is. There's the map, actually. So I've been building on top of the map here. And as you can see here, so this goes right over top of there. So the idea is, don't memorize this because it's cheating. But you'd have to come this way, go all the way through here, do all these different things. Here's where you start to teleport across to get across. In this area is this box represents where you learn about the red power up, and there's enemies through here, so you have to avoid them. And you get to this end room here. You work your way around, and then jump on top of a huge hole in the ceiling where this pyramidal type thing has broken down and come through the ceiling, and you're going to use that to kind of activate a beacon to say, hey, there's somebody down here that needs help. So that's kind of the idea, and so I imported this drawn on my whiteboard, edited in Photoshop, and then put together here, and just kind of here it is, and so I can build on top of it. As you can see, this is this first room we're in. So here's this marks the beginning with the beginning cutscene. You fall down. This marks that delineation with the hole in the ceiling. This is that little pit there, and then this is the border to the front room. So here we are. So here's the hole in the ceiling. Come down, there's a pit right here, which if I go to unlit, maybe you can see it a little bit better. Pit, and then this wall here, which looks ugly right now. It's really just a box that I've put this texture onto it in order to kind of block it off for light volumes. And then here's all my different rocks. So we'll go over these next time as well. So there's all kinds of different, I made 5 different rocks using ZBrush and then Maya and then a little bit of Substance Painter, and I devised a couple smart materials to kind of quickly paint everything. And then this volume shape, as you see here, this is all modeled inside of Maya, and it was just a quick throw together. I did a top-down look and just generated the shape, and then bring up the walls and kind of pull them all in. But we'll go over how to do all of that. And so all you have to do is be able to draw it like this pretty well, and then from there, it's not too difficult to create this. Just a lot to do in the time that I have, and the time that I have left is not very much. So after today's episode goes out, I have essentially 1 hour a day for the rest of the week, and then it has to be done and turned in. So we'll see what we create, probably just a vertical slice of the overall project that we intended, but I've learned so much so fast, and it's been amazing, and I wouldn't trade it for anything, because this just means that the next project is better, current projects get better, there's much more to share with you guys. So if you guys have any questions, please let me know. If you're interested in joining the jam, there's still the rest of this week, so if you are quick and you want to jump in, I encourage you to. Even if, like me, you probably won't complete the whole thing, do something, learn some new tools, and play around with it and see what you can do. It's a bit of a little mini challenge, which is always fun. So until next time, guys, keep practicing, get better, and I'll see you next time as the pilgrimage continues.